Hello everyone. Hope everything's fine with you and you are ready for the new month in the market. Welcome to a new free Forex technical market analysis, and in this video I'm going to basically do quick technical analysis for US dollar and gold. Apart of that, in general, I do weekly market analysis and the daily updates as well on the market, but this is for paid members. But if we talk about free technical analysis, so this is I do it once a month, and it is basically the first week of each month. Okay, now let's jump to chart. In general, one thing to keep in mind that gold reached all-time highs, okay, and this is one thing to keep in mind. And USD right now is basically moving to the downside. We can see a big sell off. Right now, we're going to basically, look at the charts and we see why and what is happening and what to expect next. But these are two things to keep in mind. And also it's good to keep in mind that between US dollar and gold, there is inverse correlation. I would say from my 12 years experience in the market, that before you could see this relation very strong. But recently, there is kind of like, something off between them. There is still inverse correlation, but not as strong as before. And this is basically because, various reasons, the political situations, like what the Fed, the federal bank in US is doing, and a lot of geopolitical, let's say, things happening in the background. But before just jumping to charts, it's very good to mention that this is the first week in the month, and that means that we have the non-farm payroll this week. And with the non-farm payroll, usually we have a lot of manipulation. But quickly, this week, Monday, basically it was bank holiday in US and Canada. So as we will see on the chart, basically there were no moves almost. And Tuesday, which is today, is the time I'm recording this video, so we have some news on Swiss franc and some news on USD. Wednesday, tomorrow, we have some news on Australian, Canadian dollar, and also USD. Thursday, we have some news on Australian dollar and US dollar. And Friday, we have basically the non-farm payroll, next to other news as well, and we have some news on Canadian dollar. So basically we can see that this week we have a lot of news on USD and CAD. That means that we will see a lot of movement, a lot of liquidation, a lot of manipulation, a lot of moves on both bears and anything, let's say, where the USD or CAD is part of. Okay, let's start with this chart for USD. So basically this is my psychological chart, and all the paid members already know what are this chart. And I also did a free video where I did explain how you can have these charts, and how I explained everything behind them. But what I want to say is that in general, these charts are basically, as you can see, when price break above level, come to retest, price break above, come to retest, price broke below, as you can see here, didn't come to retest, so that's an open level. Here, price broke up below, came to retest, price broke below, came to retest, etc., etc. So you will see that most of the time, I would say 90% or more, that price is basically acting to these levels as resistance and support. It depends where the price is, and if the price break this level as a resistance, then the price will come to retest it as support, and vice versa. But one thing to keep in mind here, which I would like to highlight, is number one, that we had here this kind of tail and shadow where we could see a strong rejection, and then here another shadow, we saw a strong rejection, and then we saw here a strong bearish engulfing, and the one after, which broke below this support level for these 2 points. And here a lot of retail traders started to sell, while basically I was telling to my community that, guys, this is basically the sign of liquidation, and a lot of people lose money in such point. Here I talk about the DXY, but basically, like, we don't trade the DXY, but you will see the same thing across all majors, okay? So we saw strong bearish engulfing, but what happened after? Straight away, the next week, we saw a strong bullish engulfing, and then prices started to move to the upside. So here is a basically liquidation move. Very similar, I would say, here, and we will see that here on this chart and also on other charts, okay, that we saw the price here with a strong wick or tail or shadow, price started to move to the upside. And then what happened here, guys? Strong bearish engulfing. I believe it basically motivated a lot of people to start to sell. And what happened the week after? Strong bullish engulfing. Okay, so this is very, very important to keep in mind. And obviously we had this yellow zone which was acting as resistance. Price broke above, came to retest as support, blah, blah, blah. And then since price broke, like you see, price broke below here, came to retest, and then we started to see a sell off. Okay, so this is basically one thing to keep in mind, and just I want to talk about it, like, to show how does it look like on basically weekly time frame from these tails and how the liquidation basically works. Okay, now let's move to this chart. So on this chart, you will see basically three different colors of the rectangle: red, yellow, and green when we go to daily time frame. But for your information, red is basically for monthly zones, yellow is for weekly zones, and the green later on, which we have here, is basically for daily zones. The community know how to basically use these zones, how to draw them, and how to trade from these zones. But one thing to keep in mind is that on this chart I also highlighted, like, the 2022 low and 2022 high. And just as you can see that in 2022 we had a massive move, and later in 2023 basically price was just like, moving inside this range within the move which we had in 2022. And as you can see here also, we had the high and the low of 2023. Okay, so one thing to keep in mind, guys, let's go to monthly time frame first. One thing to keep in mind, in general, you will see these zones, and these zones are acting as resistance and support. Okay, the reason behind that is basically, as I said, paid members knows that because I did a full video explaining everything about these zones. But just right now, you need to know that these zones act as resistance and support. One thing to keep in mind is that price broke below this zone here. Okay, price broke below this zone here and didn't come to retest as a resistance. And guess what? If we look at this zone, okay, let's go here. If we look, let me just highlight it here. If we look at this zone on the top right, guys, you see this red zone on the top right chart, you will see on the left, on the top left chart, that this is the level of the 110, where basically I said here, as you can see, that price broke below and didn't come to retest as a resistance. So this one here, this level, which is 110 on the top left, and this red zone here on the top right, these are both are the same area, which tell us that this zone is very strong, and sooner or later price will come basically to, to retest this. Similar story down there. We can see we have, resistance, 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 resistance on monthly time frame, and always keep in mind, the higher the time frame, the stronger it is. And as you can see here, price broke above and didn't come to retest it so far as a support. There was kind of attempt here back in July 2023, but it didn't come into this zone, and I would say price most of the time will come to, tap inside this zone. So this is one thing to keep in mind. And also, if we look at it, this zone is closer right now, where the price is closer to where the price is, and there is a higher probability that we might see price coming to retest this zone first before this one. maybe, and just as a scenario, maybe we will see, price just moving here and then coming to basically retest this one until we have the presidential election in US, which will happen in November. And then, after the presidential election, especially if we will see Trump winning, probably we will see by end of this year and next year price moving toward this zone. But it's just a maybe and too early to say, anything about it right now. Okay, but one thing to keep in mind is that also, as I said, guys, you can see a monthly time frame, resistance, 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 price broke above. Here, broke below, resistance, resistance, resistance. Here, support, 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 and then price broke below and didn't come to retest as a resistance so far. So this area right now is also a target area for us. Similar story here. Right now we are on weekly time frame. What we can see that this yellow zone, which is right now inside a red zone, so that means that we have these two zones together on monthly and weekly time frame. So it means that there is a very high probability for the price to come to this zone, which is here. We can see that price broke above, support, 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 price broke below, didn't come to retest as a resistance. So this zone here is a very strong zone. Similar to that, it's also this yellow one. We can see support, support, price broke below, resistance, resistance, broke above, support, 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 and then price broke below. So this is an open area where we expect price to come to. Similar story to this one, support, support, fake out, price broke below, and then here price broke below again, came to retest as a resistance. And so far we see price, just somewhere inside this zone. But as this week we have a non-farm payroll, we might see just price coming to this one before moving to the downside, if any. It's just too early to say that, especially, guys, with non-farm payroll, it's personally, I don't trade in the day of the non-farm payroll. I don't trade the Monday after the non-farm payroll, because to be honest, there is, a lot of liquidity, and I would even highly recommend you not to do that as well. But one thing to keep in mind, and this is, as I said, on daily time frame, the zones are in green, okay? I would expect that maybe, as we can see here, support, price broke below, came to retest as a resistance, price broke above. So maybe we will see price coming down here, maybe tomorrow. And by Friday, maybe the price to move here, and then from here move to the downside, if any, or basically, price to just, continue move to the downside. But as I said, in the week of the non-farm payroll, basically try not to really trade. But I would like to see how this week will be, and maybe I will look for some intraday trades, but not any swings, because basically, we have the non-farm payroll. And as I said, we have down here, the monthly. Let me just do it that way. Down here as well, we have this monthly zone, which I did talk about on monthly time frame, and we also have weekly. So this zone here and this one here are very strong one. Maybe price will move here and then up here, or vice versa, price up here and then down here. Okay. Also, one thing we need to keep in mind that, guys, overall we are in a range. Okay, this is weekly time frame as well. In overall we are in a range. As you can see here, we had this points or tails, and then we had fake out. And this is one thing which I was talking about for so long, and you will see it even on my social media, that when we had this fake out, in general, when we have ranges, guys, you need to know that usually we have fake outs. And if we have fake out to one side, most probably we will have a fake out to the other side, very similar in the size. That's why if you will take this one copy paste, okay, and you will go here, you will see it's almost similar in a size. Okay, and I was calling that we will see here some fake out, okay, before it happened. So I recorded the video, I believe it was in July 2023, you can see it on my social media, where I was saying we saw a fake out here, most probably we'll see a fake out somewhere up here. And that happened right now. I mean, that happened not right now, but happened basically last year. And as I said here on daily time frame, I really would like to keep in mind what the price did here. So as I said, price basically we had a very strong rejection from here. And what happened here, guys, you see strong like bearish engulfing below this zone and then bullish engulfing after straight away. So this is also one thing to keep in mind. Last chart for DXY is this one. So also, you know, always guys try to look at the bigger picture. So right now I showed you different charts. Like this one, it shows that we are inside a wedge pattern where basically price is just like, you know, kind of consolidating on the bigger picture. And the previous chart was also on weekly time frame where I showed you that price is inside the range, okay? And the chart before I showed you that the movement we had last year, it was just like, you know, I would say less than 50% of the movement we saw in 2022, and the movement we have in 2024, it's even less than what we had in 2023. Yeah, so it's always good to look at the bigger picture, you know. I'm not saying like, you know, the bigger picture, it's good for you to understand what is happening, you know, and it's also good in case you are more like swing trader. But for sure, like, you know, there are a lot of trades in between. But what here I want to say and to keep in mind is that we had this wedge pattern where basically we have first touch, second touch, third touch of the trend line. And with basically when we have wedge patterns, there are also a lot of fake outs, because you need to keep in mind that this one was before like that. Yeah, so we had the first touch and second touch, and what happened is that there is a fake out, and you see the fake out always happening with bullish engulfing or bearish engulfing to create this fear. But in Eltaajir community, I was telling to the guys, we do not buy here because this is a fake out. And this is what the market does most of the time. And that's why market psychology is very important. And later, for sure, we adjust the trend line and we move forward. Yeah. And I did cover all of that in Eltaajir Forex course. Anyway, similar story down here. So we had the first touch and second touch. What happened here? Price again with a strong bearish engulfing. And that's the trick. Price so far, as we can see on weekly time frame, is still above this zone and this level, I'm sorry. And as far as we are above this level, so still there is a big likelihood that the price will continue to move to the upside, and that this move here was just a fake out, liquidity move. As I said, guys, if you will look at this, when we didn't have anything right here, okay, when the price was just first touch, second touch, what happened? Price broke above the trend line with a strong bullish engulfing, okay? And then what happened? Price just like, you know, boom, started to move to the downside, okay? So here we might have a very similar scenario. We have the trend line, what happened? Strong bearish engulfing, and then price maybe will continue the move to the upside, okay? Or that's one thing we need to keep in mind. Or we might see the price just like, you know, coming to retest the back of this trend line, and also this zone. As we can see, we have support, 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 support. Price broke below, didn't come to retest as a resistance. So maybe price will come to retest this zone and the back of the trend line, and then from here move to the downside, if any. And with the non-farm payroll, we will basically see if this scenario will happen, or we will see basically by end of the week price, you know, close above here, and that will be a fake out, and then we can see, you know, the price continues a move to the upside, and then we will adjust this trend line like that. So this is one thing basically we will find it out this week, you know, but it's always good to keep it in mind. And as I said, we have this zone here, which I did talk about on daily on other chart, that maybe we will see price, you know, coming down here and then from here to move to the upside, and then from here, if the price will keep, be trading below this yellow zone, so we might see another move to the downside, So these are like kind of three scenarios which I did talk about so far. We need to keep them in mind because, we might see any of them happening actually this week. And also, if we look at it from 4 hours time frame, the way I see it, to be honest, is that we might have here left shoulder, and here we might have, the head, which is double bottom in the meantime. And then we might see here right shoulder, and then price to move to the upside before moving to the downside. If any, unless price would break above, then we will wait for the retest and then move to the upside. Okay, so this is one thing, guys, to really keep in mind as well. Yeah. So this is basically about, I would say, about DXY, about USD. We need to keep in mind also the market structure: lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. So basically this is the last lower high for us, and as far as the price is trading below this point, we are technically in a downtrend. That's why we will start to buy once we see price basically break above this zone, and then we will wait for the retest, and then after retest we will be looking for opportunity to buy, if any. So that's about DXY. It's almost 20 minutes. I promise I will try to keep things quick for gold. Okay, gold. Okay, one thing, let's start with this chart. In general, guys, same story about these levels, psychological levels. I did, as I said, make a free video. It's available on Eltaajir website. You can watch it. And if you look at this chart, you will see some, yellow arrows here. These are arrows on levels where basically the price broke above the level and didn't come to retest as support. Okay, so as you can see, any of these levels, for example, price broke above him here, came to retest as a support a couple of times. Price broke above here, came to retest as a support. Price broke above here, came to retest as support. Price broke above here, didn't come to retest as a support. Price broke above here, this 2500 was here retesting as support 1, 2. And so far, price didn't come to retest this level. And we can see so far by these weekly candles that the price is moving to the downside. The question is the price coming to retest this zone right now, to retest this level 2450? That might be the case, that the price here, on, as we can see on weekly time frame, price might come to basically, retest the 2450 before the non-farm payroll, and then, by end of the week, if the non-farm payroll will be negative, we will see price actually, with a strong and big week moving, to the upside. So this is one important thing to keep in mind on that chart. Second is here on this chart. Let's also have a quick look on monthly time frame. Again, guys, as you can see on this chart, I did highlight the 2022 high and 2022 low, and 2023 low, 2023 high. And we can see that basically, price January, February, it was just like, moving here. And then March, boom, price broke above the 2022 and 2023 high. And since then, price is just moving to the upside. But again, guys, one thing to keep in mind, which is very interesting, and we might get back to it. I do believe in my levels, okay? And I do believe in my zones. And as you can see, this red one, we have it here: resistance, 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 resistance. And remember, this is monthly time frame, and the higher the time frame, the stronger it is. And this is happening on monthly time frame, and the price broke above here in March. And since then, price didn't come to retest it as a support. And I wonder if we will see price moving to the downside and coming to retest this level like $2,000 level by end of this year. To be fully honest, I see probability for that to happen, but it depends on what will happen on the presidential election. If we will see Trump winning, I believe we might see this scenario coming into play, that gold will basically move down to $2,000 area. You know, keep that in mind. We might get back to it by end of this year. Okay, on weekly time frame, very similar story, and you see, guys, that in general we had a very choppy movement, but you can see that these zones are actually resistance couple of times. Price broke above here, came to retest as a support, and then we saw a strong move to the upside. So I wonder if right now price is coming here, especially if we look on daily time frame. Price might be coming to retest this one before moving to the upside. We might see price coming to the downside until the non-farm payroll, and then boom, price start to move to the upside. Okay, and this is a very important thing to keep in mind, guys, that usually before major news we have a lot of manipulation happening in the market. Please keep that in mind. And also you can see this level, which I did talk about in my last video, which is available on YouTube, also on Eltaajir website and on my Instagram account. You can see this level was, resistance, price broke above, support. Here is kind of like fake out, it was news, support, price broke below, came to retest resistance, and I wonder what is happening here. Maybe price will come to retest this level if the daily candle will close below this green area, so we might see price coming here before moving to the upside, if any. So this is one thing to keep in mind. Last, let's look at this one. So on weekly time frame we have this like uptrend, as you can see this channel. Okay, we have also on daily time frame, so we have like outer long-term trend line, which is this one, and we have outer trend line, which is this one, and I would say we also, if we will go zoom in, we will have also an inner trend line. And always remember that long-term trend line is stronger than outer trend line. Outer trend line is stronger than inner trend line, and basically inner trend line is the weakest out of them all. And always remember, the higher the time frame, the stronger it is for price action and also for any levels or any things we are using. And in general, if price will break below or above, let's say, the inner trend line, which is here, there is a higher probability that the price will move to the next trend line. And if price will move this trend line, there is a higher probability that the price will move to the other trend line. So this is one thing to really keep in mind. Let's actually do like this. On 4 hours time frame, we have this thing. Okay, basically where we had this. You see, guys? So we had this inner trend line, first touch, second touch, third touch, where basically price broke below, came to retest the back of the trend line, and then right now I believe there is a higher probability for the price to move to the other trend line. And as you can see here, I highlighted this one and this point, and keep in mind that we were in a range, okay? And I do expect that price might come down here to liquidate this point, so price might come down here, or we might see price moving even down to this trend line, and then maybe by the news on the non-farm payroll, from here price to move to the upside to liquidate this point here. Because remember, guys, price is more like a train, okay? In order for it to move from one point to another or from one station to another, it needs some fuel. And this fuel in the market is basically collecting stop losses. So the market is basically going to collect stop losses and use it as a fuel to move to the next stop. What do I mean by that? What I mean here is, in case the price would need to move to the upside, first it will move to the downside to collect stop losses and use it as a fuel to move to the upside, and vice versa. And keep in mind, in weeks where we have a big news like this week, where we have the non-farm payroll, so we might see it even happening in a bit different way, that price will move to the downside and then to collect stop losses which are below this zone and this zone, okay, and then move to the upside to collect stop losses which are above here, and then move to the downside, which will be, let's say, the massive move. Okay, so this is one thing where basically price does all the time. It's more about market psychology, guys. Believe me, market psychology is everything. I would say 80 to 90% of the time it's all about market psychology and how the market is manipulating everyone basically to collect their money and use it as a fuel to move to the next stop. Last thing to keep in mind for gold, that we have this channel on daily time frame, and you can see I just like highlighted this zone here. So you see we had this on 1 hour time frame, support, price broke below, came to retest as resistance, and then strong move to the downside. But if we move to the 4 hours time frame, then that will be even stronger and better, because higher time frame, stronger it is, as I always say. And it will be very important to see how this 4 hours candle is going to close. Okay, I know in 1 hour time frame, yes, it happened, but also we need to keep in mind what is happening on 4 hours time frame. We also have here this level, which was, let me even stretch it like this. We have this level, we can see support, price broke below. So we might see price, maybe we even use Fibonacci, maybe, lovely. So maybe we will see price, if price meant to move to the downside, so we might see price coming here to retest this point, this broken, support, price to come to retest this zone. It's between also the 50%, 61.8 Fibo, and then price continues a move to the downside, if any. This is one thing to keep in mind, guys. It's really, really, really important thing, I would say. Yeah, let's see. So that's all, guys, for this free video. If you have any questions, please let me know. I will get back to you as soon as possible. Trade safe. Keep in mind that this week we have a non-farm payroll, so really be very careful, guys. Yeah, I wish you a very successful trading week, and let me know if you have any questions. Cheers, guys.